Hello, and welcome to Alternative Viewpoint. In this podcast, we will be discussing the freehold for the two remaining flats in Cavendish Court. The flats belong to Mr. Sims and Simon. There are 3 interviews, one with our guest speaker, Julia, one with Mr. Sims, and one with Simon. All 3 will give their opinions on the state of the freehold. You will find some information is repeated as the 3 interviews were recorded separately. Okay, we're here again, and this time we're going to talk about the freehold for Cavendish Court. The majority of the people in the building have their own freehold, and there is and they are members of the freehold company, and they are shareholders. There's 24 flats in the building. 22 of them are shareholders. There's only 2 flats that are remaining, and I've been thinking over these 2 flats. And I think that the solution is really that what we should do is to offer the freehold to these 2 remaining flats at a price that they can afford and to make the Cavendish Court totally freehold. I don't really see that it's beneficial or even profitable in the long term to keep these 2 people waiting.
I agree, yes. So how have you gone about trying to establish this?
Well, let's explain about the freehold
Yeah.
initiative first. Is
Mhm.
the lease of these 2 flats are now 71 year.
Mhm.
Potentially, they're paying in the region of over 20,000 for if they want to extend their lease,
Yes.
and they won't be able to extend their lease necessarily. What they have to do is that they really have to pay to be a freeholder.
Mhm.
The current situation is that most of the leaseholder in this building think that they should go for the maximum price from the leaseholders.
Mhm.
The problem with that is that you're just blocking them because they can't afford it.
Yes.
They're not going to pay it.
Mhm.
So you either keep waiting
Mhm.
until they die and somehow you'll get your money that way.
Yes.
But I find that idea, especially for Mr. Sim, really appalling, because when he dies, his property will be left to his children, and the financial burden will be passed on to his children.
Yes.
And it's
So,
not.
yeah, that's really kind of you then. So that what you're saying is that it just places him in an impossible situation whereby what he wants to do is leave his children something profitable and something that will help them, and instead of which, because of the situation, he's going to leave his children with debt, really. Yeah,
Or virtually wipe out their inheritance.
exactly.
Essentially.
Yes. So he's not going to leave them anything of any value. So it would be really nice if somehow he could.
Yeah. Well, I think even for the leaseholder themselves, they think, well, if we can get as much money from them, it means that we'll be rich. It doesn't mean that you'll be rich, because the money, for a start, the money is going to be shared between 22 people. They had an opportunity to make money, to make a profit, but they lost that when they lost the freehold the first time.
Yes.
Right? When they could have bought the freehold at £60,000, and they lost that, and because they didn't understand it.
Mhm.
Because somebody else had to do the work, namely me, I do not think that they should profit from somebody else's hard work,
No,
essentially.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
And especially when you feel very strongly that Mr. Sim and Simon should be included now, yes,
Yeah.
and should come to some sensible agreement about how much they should pay.
Yeah. And of course, it's Simon. Simon is still quite young, so it could be another 2 decades before, and he won't. He can't afford it. The longer he leaves it, the more it's going to cost him. But he doesn't care because he'll never extend it. So, there's no point in keeping him as a leaseholder and hoping you'll end up becoming rich. I never bought the freehold to profit financially from people. I thought the idea was appalling, and it is money for nothing for the freeholder.
Yes.
And I would have ended it a lot sooner, but because it's a shared freehold company, other people are involved.
Of course.
So the decision, I would have actually allowed them to join the freehold a few years ago. I also think that because of the way they've been treated by the leaseholders in this building, I know that Mr. Sim and Simon, they find the idea that these people are going to get their money quite appalling.
Yes.
And Mr. Sim especially, he's very upset about it.
Oh, well, I can imagine. That must be horrific for him, because he must be thinking he was going to leave his children something of great value, and now he's not.
Well, now he thinks that the money is going to people who he feels are so unworthy of
Yes,
it.
well, he's right.
The way he's been treated by these people over the years has left him really unhappy, especially with the current director
Of course.
giving Prime a pay rise, and then now Prime is slapping him with £100 fines when they've neglected the car.
Yes.
So this is what he finds so upsetting.
Yes.
I think the people, the leaseholders themselves, they need to wake up, look at themselves, and actually think that this is not how you should treat your fellow. In this building, there's always been a kind of an attack by the directors on the leaseholders, and I find
Yes.
that really weird when
Yes.
their job is really to protect people's investments.
Yeah, and to represent them.
Exactly,
And
to
to
represent
represent their
them.
interests. It's
Yes.
amazing that they're doing exactly the
But rather
opposite
than doing
sometimes.
that, the directors in the past have actually turned against the leaseholders and forced them into submission rather than actually doing what they should do, which is to support their wishes. Like if they don't want to pay Prime, they shouldn't have to pay Prime. I think that I don't know that they would ever support Simon and Mr. Sim's requests. So
how would it be possible to get their request listened to, or
well, I think the thing
how should they proceed?
is to highlight the problem with the MPs, to say, well, the decision really shouldn't be made by them because they are ignorant of the facts and they don't understand. You know, they had no participation in the freehold purchase at all, apart from putting their money into the pot.
Yeah,
and that's the only that was their only contribution, the financial contribution.
Yeah.
And over the years, actually, when I have tried to sort out the freehold, I've come up against obstacles after obstacles. I would have done this years ago. I want to highlight here, there's no profit for them to be made, okay? And they should accept that it is more beneficial for them and the whole building if they allow the two remaining leaseholders to join the freehold and let this building become 100% freehold. And they need to consider also the financial burden they would inflict on Simon and Mr. Sim if they want the money. But the fact is that they won't get the money. They'll be dead before they get the money. It's like,
yes, it seems a little bit counterproductive and sort of not very far-seeing to keep on and on thinking they're going to get loads of money, because they're not going to get that. So they might as well be kind and charitable and accept a different proposition. Yes.
There's also the other mentality that some people seem to think, well, I had to pay £10,000 for my leasehold. I expect that they should pay the same because that makes it fair. It doesn't make it fair because the thing is that you don't go out and think that you are being fair when you're forcing people to do something that you felt unfair to begin with on yourself.
Precisely.
Like what is that saying? Two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
You know, there's no point in it.
No, there's no point or profit. And also, you did all that work and you didn't get paid to do that work, did you? So that's unfair. If we're talking about fairness, it's not fair that you seem to have been doing so much work for them, really, for all of them, which they haven't really properly appreciated and certainly haven't paid you for. And just in, going further back with people like Rob, it seems anyway that things are unfair because certain people seem to be pulling their weight, doing a lot of work, and other people aren't. So really, if they're trying to talk about fairness, then they should have been paying some of the people who've done so much work for them already.
Yeah. Let's talk about fairness. Like, is it fair to force an abuse victim to pay his abuser?
Yeah,
no, it isn't fair.
Exactly.
Like, is it fair to force Mr. Sim to pay Prime? It isn't fair on him.
Of course it's not.
Like, they haven't done anything for him, right?
Yes.
Is it fair on Simon? No. I mean, over the years, Simon has been ignored by everybody. Is that fair? No.
Of course, it's
and
ridiculous.
Of course, the contribution of other people like myself who have gone out of their way to put this building into shape, into, where I'm trying to help everybody in this building to make profit. And I haven't benefited from it. So it's not fair to force people to. I find it morally reprehensible the way they're doing it right now.
Yes, exactly. And, I mean, what's so ironic is that you actually, of all the people who should be up in arms about it, are the one that's actually trying to make things fair for them. And yet you've been treated unfairly for ages by people. A lot of work that you've done has been completely unappreciated and you haven't been paid, and you've gone out of your way to help people. And then they are talking about fairness. So the whole thing is
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Well, and the person who should be in a position to profit the most is me. And hence I'm
Exactly,
saying I
exactly.
don't want their money.
Yeah,
If I
yeah.
don't want their money, I don't think
Then
anybody in this
why should
building
people
should
who've
have
been
say.
very lazy and not done anything, why should they make any profit from
Yeah,
basically what was your work? You
exactly,
know?
exactly. And that
And you
unfortunately,
should be in a position, and you are, well, you're not in actual legal position, but really, in a sense, morally, you're in the position to say, I don't care about getting my money back or getting paid for all the work I've done. Rather than that, I would like you to allow Mr. Sim and Simon to sort of have an easier ride of it. Yes.
it's not so much having an easier ride.
Well,
I
but
think
they perceive it isn't. That's where their
yeah,
problem.
I
Their problem is they think they're having an
mm,
easy ride and they've
yeah.
had to pay so much, and
Well,
why isn't it fair?
yeah,
But actually, things haven't been fair anyway, and you're the
yeah,
person they haven't been fair to. So you should have more say, and you certainly, sort of morally, you have more. You should have more power to persuade them to understand the plight of Mr. Sim and Simon. Yes.
yeah. And the other thing is that I'm highlighting the unjust situation of
Mm,
leaseholds and freehold,
yeah.
and how freeholders are motivated by nothing but greed. Okay, I want to end that, and I want it to start with this. Okay, we should set an example
Yeah.
for everybody. I know it won't work because people are so obsessed with money, but but we should, in this building, we should set an example that greed doesn't pay, and we should say that we should end the financial burden on people
Yeah.
for good. Whether or not we need to end the leasehold is, is quite questionable. But what we need to do is end the financial burden that's
Mm,
associated with having a leasehold property.
yeah.
And this is something the government should think about. I mean, they're making steps towards ending for new build flats, but there are people who are still trapped in
Yeah.
in very erroneous
Yeah.
situations
Yeah. Yeah.
where they're being exploited financially,
Hmm.
and it's usually the people who are the poorest in society, who are just victims of this
Yes.
system.
Mm, mm.
And we should set an example to everybody, to this whole country, that we don't need to do that. We
Yeah.
don't need to take thousands and thousands from
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful in life, you should go out there and do your work and make yourself a successful based on your talent and your education and your intellect, not based on the fact you can exploit some poor person for money.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's my position. Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
very good position.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Julia. No. We're here to discuss your lease
Mm.
and buying into the freehold.
You mentioned at the start about the lease start in 97.
Mm.
Yeah. Of course, I was not involved,
Yeah.
in this property in 97. So I didn't take over occupancy until 2002.
Mm.
So that's 5 years after the original start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Sims, are you aware of what a lease is?
Well, I couldn't break it down like as you could
Okay.
as such.
But do you understand that when you bought the property that this property had a lease on it? And were you aware of the years of the lease?
I didn't go into that,
Right.
as such. Yeah.
But do you know why you pay the ground rent every year?
That has never been explained to me before.
Okay, so you don't know what the ground rent was for.
Well, I think it's some sort of standard payment. What for, I do not know.
Yeah. Well, the ground rent is simply a rent. So it's a minimal fee,
Hmm.
really, to rent your property. You are renting the property from the freeholder, and that
Mm-hmm.
is what he charges you every
Yeah.
year.
Understood
Yeah.
now.
So let me explain to you about your lease. So your lease began in 1997,
Well,
and
no, pardon me, yeah. If I didn't acquire the property until 2002, uh, the lease it would have been associated with the previous owner.
No. The lease is associated to the flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So when the freeholder will set a lease for each one of these flats in this building, and he set it the same for all the flats, right? And he set it at 99 years. Now, whether you buy or sell the flat, when you sell the flat with the lease, and the buyer acquires the flat with the lease. So the lease is constantly decreasing every year.
Yeah.
But buying and selling, it doesn't mean that when you buy the lease, you start from the beginning, because the lease is to do with the flat.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So the lease is to do with the flat.
Yeah.
Now, currently you're being charged £200 ground rent. It's stipulated in the lease that your ground rent is £200 a year. Now, as your lease decreases, the ground rent will increase, but it will increase like once every 30 years.
Yeah.
So by 2031, your ground rent will go up to £400, but your lease will then, by then, will be about 64 years or something. So the way the lease works is that as your lease decreases, the value of your property decreases, because as it gets closer to the end of your lease, what happens at the end is that your property reverts back to the freeholder. So your flat is owned by the freeholder. You don't own your flat outright. And the closer it gets to zero, the less likely that people will want to buy the flat. And the banks don't want to lend money to buy the flat when the lease is short.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand.
Right. So although the ground rent is low, it's minimal fee, where the profit is, it comes from when people have to extend their lease. And that's when the freeholder will get a big chunk of money, right? The way it works is that if you want to buy a property, you have to go to the bank to ask for a loan. The bank will look at your lease and decide whether or not they want to lend you that money. If your lease is low, if it's less than 70 years or even 80 years, it's unlikely that you would get a loan, because he said the bank is just basically won't get their money back. If so your property is collateral for the bank. If your property has a low lease, it's more likely that the freeholder will get your property. If you default on your payments, the bank owns your flat and they have a right to take your flat from you. But they can't take your flat from you because it belongs to the freeholder. It's the freeholder who has more right. So that's why they won't lend it. There is a system of calculation to work out how much you have to pay when you extend your lease. And currently, it's probably it's over 20,000 if you were to extend your lease, right? I think it's in the region of maybe 20 to 25,000 pounds. Have you thought about this in preparation for your will and factored this into your will?
Now, I this conversation I haven't had before, so consequently, no calculations would have been made.
Yeah.
About. But from my point of view, if it's going to cost too much, which, number one, I have to be able to afford, say, then it's I don't see the benefits, for me personally, as explained. For my offsprings, who it will then occupy said premises, assets, or whatever, it might be inconvenient or expense for them.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's going to be a financial burden that's passed on to them.
yes. But something's got to be done to make it attractive to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know who the freehold of this building now is?
Freeholder.
Yeah. Freehold of this building is all the
Yeah.
leaseholder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I bought we managed to buy the freehold from Coney in 2017. So now the freehold belongs to all the people who put their money in to buy the freehold. So it's people like Mamas, Brett, Nicole, George, all these people are the freehold.
Yeah.
If you were to extend your lease now, you'll pay your money, and that money will go to the leaseholders. It will be shared out between the leaseholders, between everybody who owns, between the shareholders, I say, because they are a member of the freehold company. Each of these people have a share in that company.
Yes.
So when that company gets money, that money is divided among the shareholders, right? It's like if it is one person who owns a company, that one person gets all the money. If there's more than one person who owns the company, then all those people will get a share of that money. That money is divided between the shareholders. Yeah.
So, who is the combined owner then?
The 20, no, all the 22. Currently there are 22 people.
Yeah.
Who are the portion of that money will be paid out to each of the shareholders.
So it's distributed straight away.
It should be done every year, but it's not necessarily. It's called a dividend. It's called a dividend.
Yeah.
So how do you feel knowing that these people, the leaseholder in this building, are going to take a very big chunk of money from you? Is entitled to a very big chunk of money of you?
I don't feel naturally. They can only take as much as is available for a start. But then again, I will not be happy, if to find myself deprived, as such.
Yeah, it will be your children who will be deprived of the money because they were not the one who will have to pay it.
Yeah.
Because as you stated, you won't be extending the lease now at your age, right?
No, not as such.
No. But your property will be left to your children in the will. So that financial burden is passed on to your children.
Well, at the current price that is an offer, I don't find it acceptable. So
no, well, especially, considering how the people in this building have treated you, do you find it? Does that make you angry to know that they are going to get money?
Well, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. So all these years, these leaseholders, they have mistreated you, and they have allowed prime property management to abuse you. They have deprived you of a nice outdoor space, a garden that you could enjoy. You look at Mamas. You told him you don't want prime, you want prime to be sacked. What did he do?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, gave me an increase.
Exactly. Instead of sacking prime property management, this idiot gave them a pay rise, despite the fact that this prime property has neglected this building for years. And I think it's typical of how the leaseholders in this building behave towards each other, like the constant waging war with the leaseholder, and their treatment of Rob as well. So trying to take Rob to court and trying to get him to inflict maximum financial penalty on him because he refuses to pay prime. It shows how nasty, really nasty, that these people are. Because Rob has been looking after this building for over 10 years. Like when nobody else was interested in looking after the building,
I see.
he took on the responsibility.
Mhm.
And this is how these people like Kaleem, Mammoth, Brett, Nicole, all these, Jenny and Jackie and all these people repay him. I find that attitude is so deplorable and so disgusting. And you and Simon have been neglected and ignored by these people. How does it make you feel to know that they're waiting for you to die so they can get their hands on your money?
Well, as I've said to you in conversation, if some arrangement could be made that the monies that I will be expected to contribute in any way is acceptable and affordable, okay. But otherwise, I just walk away. Yeah.
Well, you can't walk away, Mr. Sims. Ultimately, you're going to have to pay. What they need to do, what the leaseholder needs to do, and they can do, is that we can accept like a minimal fee and allow and let you buy into the freehold. And had it not been for the stupid directors, that problem would have been able to be sorted out. But because we've got directors like Mamas, James, Brett, Nicole, Kaleem, and all these people, they just don't understand how things work. And they'd make things 100 times worse than it should be. As you and Simon, I think what we could do for you and Simon is to say, well, why don't you pay us what you can afford to pay? Let's say if I say that we should sell you the freehold for £2,000 each, and that is an acceptable figure. But we are living in this building where people who are extremely stupid and motivated by nothing but greed and ego. So I think that the option that we can do is to go to the MPs and highlight this problem, this issue, because it's not right that your children should be burdened, with this financial cost. Yeah. Because they have, and this money should not be paid to people who are who have done nothing for you, essentially.
Not really.
No. Would you like to say a bit more about that?
Well, what might say flats that are not included at the moment. There must be some arrangements that can be made.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Or
Definitely.
be included.
Yeah.
You say,
I think for the two of you, like they want you to get as much money from you because they feel that because they have paid out thousands of pounds themselves for you to pay less, it would seem to be unfair. But I don't think that's right because they never bought the freehold. No. I bought the freehold, right?
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to make money, but they failed with that. So they lost that, right?
I see, yeah.
They even so now they cannot say that they're entitled to any money. Nobody in this building is entitled to any money, and nobody in this building should be making any decision. The person who should be making the decision is me.
Yeah,
and my intention to buy the freehold was never to exploit people financially. My intention is always to do things fair and also to keep the freehold among the leaseholders. I never expected or even dreamed how nasty the people in this building truly were. Like how unpleasant and stupid they were. And I said, if I had known what these people were like, I would have not buy the freehold. I would have walked away. I would have sold my property, walked away, and disconnect myself from these people, and let them deal with it themselves, and let Coney deal with them. Because to me, it seems like the people who could deal with the leaseholders would be somebody like Coney. Like they were unpleasant people, so they would know how to deal with these unpleasant people, right?
Yeah.
So let me just. This recording is about the freehold, and the freehold concerns yours and Mr. Sims. Are you aware of your freehold situation?
Yeah.
So you're aware that your lease is now 71 years old.
Yeah.
And you have it's going to cost you a considerable amount of money.
To buy the freehold?
Yeah, it's going to be over 20,000.
Yeah.
I think I sent you an email about with a rough estimate of how much it cost a few months ago. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think they said it was about £25,000-30,000 a few years ago.
Yeah, a few months ago I did a rough calculation and I sent you that. And are you aware also with the ground rent as well?
Yeah, it's going up to 400 in 2030.
231.
Oh, 231.
But that's a few years away.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So in terms of the freehold situation, with now that the freehold is owned by the leaseholders, the share of the company, are you aware that the freeholders can actually sell you the freehold for any price he wants?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what price they want.
Well, in I personally think that with just two people in the building, then we should accept a figure that is reasonable.
Yeah.
And have the two of you join the freehold, own your own freehold.
What did Mr. Sims say about it?
Well, he was really upset to find out that what happens with the freehold is that, well, right now he can't afford it. So the burden of that financial burden is going to be passed on to his children.
Yeah.
When he dies, his property is going to be left to his children, and if they want to sell the property or something, they're going to have to buy extend the lease before they can buy it. So that financial burden going to cut into their inheritance a lot. And he was really upset to find that out, to learn about that. He wasn't aware of the leasehold situation before.
Yeah.
And he thinks that if there's something that we can do or I can do, that we should do it. And I personally think, after seeing how the people in this building behave, I think that I don't really think that they should get any of the money from you, because they've treated you so terribly. These people, you've seen the greed and the of these people. I mean, right now it's almost as if they're just waiting for Mr. Sims to die so they can get his money, which I think is revolting. I think the right thing to do is to set the freehold at a price that you can afford.
Yeah.
And then you would, of course, pay the solicitor's fee on top.
Yeah.
And the price that we mentioned before is 2,000.
Yeah.
And for me, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would do that?
Yeah.
None of these people have that, they just by chance, by circumstance, that they would get money. They haven't done anything to earn that money, right? And number two is that they cannot really profit from the make lots of money anymore, because there's only two properties in the building.
Yeah.
Right. So the chances of people making £20,000 per person is not. The freehold is owned by a group of shareholders.
Yeah.
And if there's anything, then they get dividends. Right.
Yeah.
So that money is going to be divided by by the 22 shareholders. In my opinion, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there's no financial incentive for me to say that you have to pay the full price of the freehold, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You have a will or something set up?
I haven't made a will out.
No. But still, you would want to have your freehold settled, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So paying the ground rent, wouldn't it?
The ground rent is really not a lot of money into
No.
It goes to 400, and then it will stay that way for the next 20, 30 years or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And then it will go to 600. It's not a big deal. But it's just in terms of the building, the way the building situation is that the majority are freeholders, have shared ownership. So it's not really, it's no longer practical to keep two flats as leasehold. It's better to hand over, to give it to you, to bring you two into the freehold. Then you can have equal share and equal say in how the building is. But you've seen all this situation in this building. Like, how do you feel to think that these people will get your money then?
It's bad, really.
Yeah. Do you think that they deserve any of it?
Not really.
No. Well, they didn't do any work to buy the freehold, so I don't really think that they should have any.
Who's in charge then? Or is it all together?
Well, the decision would be, a majority decision to say how much they want to sell.
Well, the other 22 flats.
Yeah, but I think that I want to actually pressure or highlight this situation and make it public.
Yeah.
And basically tell the government should really be able to say that yes, you can get the freehold for whatever price, or at least highlight the greed among the leaseholders and their behavior. And that's the whole thing with all the podcasts, is to highlight their behavior and to bring more public attention to how these people are behaving and the way they're bullying certain people in the building, like yourself and Mr. Sim and me, and to say, well, this is a problem in this building. By the way, what do you think of the painting so far?
The colour's rubbish. It's not that bad, the painting, but
it just makes
early stage though, isn't it? It's only a week.
Yeah.
In 3 months' time, what's it going to be like?
Well, the colour is, it's just boring. It doesn't really, with the garden the way it is, it just basically drains like any life out of this building. It just makes it look dull and lifeless because there's no colour really.
The managing agent gave us a date and it didn't even start that week. It started the week after.
Oh, okay.
And it said 14 to 16 days, but he only did about 5 days.
No. Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he did about 5 days.
Yeah. But that's the typical kind of decisions that they're making. They shouldn't have actually done any painting and decorating because there were so many other things that they didn't fix in the building. Your money should have been spent on doing all the repairs, and there's so many things that needs to be done. Painting and decorating is usually something you do at when you have done all the repairs, because now, they need to repair the lock for one thing, because
that door is useless, isn't it?
Is it still causing problems?
Yeah, you've got to close it twice for it to close.
Really? So you have to push it.
And when I come up for work, most of the time it's left open.
Really?
Not wide open. It's like you just push it and it's open.
Oh yeah, it's not locked properly.
No.
That is a problem. Yeah, that is down to the fact that this lock is not really functioning.
No.
So that's the thing that they should have actually done. I thought they were supposed to paint the door as well, but the door is not painted.
No, nothing's happened with the door, is there?
Okay, well,
just
that
the walls,
was in the
isn't
plan.
It? Just the walls.
Okay, well, that's the plan. Yeah, I think they should have actually done it and put some colour into it. It would have looked a lot nicer, especially. It just makes it look. It would have looked a lot more stylish and classy and sophisticated in terms of. But okay, I think that's all I need for your input.
Okay.
Okay.